In the year 1868, the sun hung high over the remote Oregon settlement, casting a golden hue on the rugged landscape. Aniela Zielinski stood in the fields, her hands worn and calloused from long hours of labor. She had come to America with dreams of building a new life, but now, alone and grieving, the weight of her husband's death pressed heavily upon her heart. Aniela was a Polish immigrant whose journey to this foreign land was filled with hope and promise. However, she quickly learned that hope can be fleeting. The settlement, filled with rough men and cautious women, was suspicious of outsiders. With her broken English and thick accent, Aniela often felt like a shadow, unseen and misunderstood. The laughter and whispers behind her back would pierce through her like arrows each time she entered the trading post or passed by others on the road. Her husband had always been her strength. He had promised that together they would cultivate the land, turning it into a thriving farm. But without him, Aniela was left to battle against the elements and an unfriendly community. Every day she woke before dawn to tend to the crops, often working until dusk, her body aching from the strain. While she toiled under the open sky, thoughts of what could have been haunted her. She imagined her husband at her side, guiding her through the hardships of farming, sharing laughter over meals made from their harvests. But reality was different. Her neighbors would poke fun at her accent when she asked for help or traded supplies. "Why can't she just speak proper English?" they would say among themselves, chuckling in disbelief that someone like her could think she belonged in their community. Their words stung, and as she walked by, Aniela would keep her head down, hiding the hurt simmering beneath her tough exterior. Despite these challenges, Aniela found solace in the land itself. With every seed she planted, she poured out her hopes for a better future. The rich soil reminded her of home, where she had planted potatoes with her grandmother in Poland. Each evening, after the sun dipped below the horizon, she would envision thriving crops and children laughing as they played in the fields, dreams that seemed increasingly distant. Yet there were moments when despair threatened to engulf her. On some evenings after a long day's work, she would sit on her porch and gaze at the stars above, whispering prayers in Polish for guidance and strength. The stillness of the night would embrace her, but loneliness gnawed at her heart. Just as she began to wonder if hope had truly faded, a new chapter was about to unfold. One day, while Aniela was at the trading post gathering supplies, everything changed. As she selected grains and dried beans, a tall figure entered, a bearded trapper whose presence immediately drew the attention of everyone in the room. He moved with a quiet confidence that whispered adventure. The moment he approached the counter, something remarkable happened. To Aniela's astonishment, he turned to her and spoke in fluent Polish. "Can I help you with those?" His words rolled off his tongue like sweet music, resonating with familiarity. The other customers froze, their chatter replaced by shocked silence. Aniela's heart raced with disbelief. "You speak Polish?" she asked, struggling to contain her surprise. The trapper smiled warmly and nodded. "Yes, I learned it from a friend many years ago." His eyes sparkled with kindness, and for the first time since arriving in Oregon, Aniela felt seen, not just as an outsider, but as someone deserving of understanding. As they began to talk, Elias shared fragments of his past. The man who had taught him Polish was once his brother in arms during a troubled time. Aniela listened intently as he spoke about loyalty and friendship forged under dire circumstances. In that moment, both felt a connection born from shared struggles and collided dreams. With each exchanged word, Aniela's fears began to dissolve like morning mist under the sun. Elias didn't see her as a foreigner. Instead, he recognized her resilience and strength. The laughter and scorn of others faded away as they bonded over their stories of loss and survival. Through this unexpected encounter at the trading post, Aniela realized that perhaps she was not as alone as she thought. Little did she know that this bearded trapper would soon play a pivotal role in not just her life, but also in helping her face a town that never wished for either of them to belong. Aniela Zielinski stood in the midst of her fields, the soil beneath her fingers cool and rich, yet it offered little comfort against the harsh realities of her life. The sun had begun to dip low in the sky, casting elongated shadows over her modest homestead, but as the day waned, her heart felt heavier. Working the land was a constant reminder of her husband's absence and the dreams they had shared. However, it was not just grief that clouded her thoughts. It was the daily struggle against the isolation and mockery from the townspeople. Every trip to the trading post became a battleground for Aniela. The moment she crossed the threshold, she could feel the eyes of the townsfolk on her. Their whispers, sharp and pointed, would follow her like a cold wind. What does she know about farming? One would say. Why can't she learn to speak properly? Another would sneer, their laughter echoing in her ears like an unwelcome song. The words stung deep, reminding her of how different she was from them. The language barrier was a wall that separated Aniela from any chance at connection or acceptance. Simple interactions turned into daunting challenges when she stumbled over English words that felt foreign on her tongue. "I need grain," she would say, hoping to communicate effectively, yet often getting responses filled with disdain rather than help. In those moments, her heart would race, and she would feel herself retreating inside, wishing to vanish like a ghost in a place that felt increasingly unwelcoming. Occasionally, someone might offer assistance, but it always came with a caveat, a condescending reminder of her limitations. "You should be thankful I'm helping you," one man had told her after reluctantly carrying a sack of flour to her cart. Aniela felt as if she were constantly walking a tightrope. One misstep could send her tumbling into deeper ridicule. Her solitude was compounded by this unrelenting scrutiny. While the other women in the settlement gathered to gossip or share news, Aniela found herself standing apart, watching from the edges. She admired their camaraderie, but felt like an intruder in their circle. The laughter and light-hearted banter of mothers exchanging recipes or tales of their children's antics only highlighted her own loneliness. Thoughts of home would creep in, the bustling markets of Poland filled with voices and laughter, and each memory felt like a dagger to her heart. At night, when she lay in bed listening to the sounds of nature outside, Aniela often found herself whispering secrets to the stars above. They were the only ones who understood her struggles and fears, the only ones who listened without judgment. In these moments, she would pray for strength to face another day in a world that seemed so determined to keep her at arm's length. Yet even amid this isolation, Aniela held on to hope. She poured herself into her work, drawing strength from the earth that sustained her. Each seed she planted was infused with dreams of a brighter future, where laughter could fill her home again and acceptance would wash away the bitterness she faced daily. As she bent over each row of crops, she imagined children playing nearby, her children, bringing joy back into her life amidst the stark reality surrounding her. But with every passing week, that hope felt more fragile. The townspeople continued their mockery, and Aniela noticed how they exchanged glances whenever she attempted to join their conversations or ask questions about farming tips. It was as though they had formed an invisible barrier around themselves, a barricade that kept out anyone who didn't fit their mold. Then came that fateful day at the trading post when everything shifted. As she stood there grappling with feelings of inadequacy and despair, Elias walked in, a new figure breaking through the monotony of her isolated existence. His presence drew attention not because he was foreign, but because he seemed different from those who had made her life difficult. When he spoke fluent Polish, it felt like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters, a connection emerging between two souls who both knew what it meant to be outcast in their own ways. For Aniela, meeting Elias sparked a flicker of possibility that perhaps isolation could be replaced by understanding and friendship. Now, as she reflected on those difficult days filled with mockery and loneliness, Aniela realized that change was on the horizon. With Elias's arrival came an opportunity to rewrite her story, one where acceptance and belonging might finally take root in a place that had always seemed so unwelcoming. With each sunrise, Aniela Zielinski rose to face another day filled with uncertainty and toil. The world outside her window awakened in hues of orange and pink, signs of life that contrasted sharply with the solitude she felt. Aniela, though burdened by the grief of her husband's death, found resolve in the land she tended. It was not just a source of sustenance, it was her lifeline, a testament to her resilience and determination to build a life from the ashes of her shattered dreams. As she stepped out into the crisp morning air, a sense of purpose washed over her. Aniela moved with a steadiness that belied the heartache she carried. She had learned quickly that the harsh Oregon landscape required hard work and unwavering commitment. The fields stretched before her, waiting to be nurtured. With every seed she planted, she sowed not only crops but also a glimmer of hope for a better tomorrow. She would wake early, before the first light touched the earth, and head straight to the barn. It was small but functional, filled with tools that had seen better days and a few cherished possessions from her homeland, a wooden carving of a woman holding wheat, a reminder of her grandmother's strength. With each swing of the hoe or push of the plow, Aniela poured her sweat into the soil, channeling her anguish into productivity. Despite the physical strain, there were moments when joy seeped through the cracks of her isolation. The sight of green shoots breaking through the earth offered her small victories that kept her spirit alight. Each plant represented not just food for survival, but also a step toward independence. Aniela often whispered words of encouragement to them, as if they understood her plight. Grow strong, little ones. We will make it together. Yet every evening carried its own weight. As dusk descended upon her fields, shadows crept in like unwelcome visitors, reminding her of her loneliness. The laughter of families gathering nearby echoed across the land, filling the air with warmth that she could only savor from afar. Aniela would stand quietly at the edge of her property, watching as children played under their mother's watchful eyes, wishing for a sense of belonging that seemed forever out of reach. Despite this longing, Aniela refused to surrender to despair. She was resourceful. Each obstacle became an opportunity for innovation. When water from a nearby stream threatened to wash away her crops, she fashioned makeshift barriers from rocks and mud to redirect the flow. When pests invaded her garden, she sought natural remedies, learning to use herbs and plants around her property to deter them. Her determination turned every setback into a lesson learned, a testament not just to survival but to thriving against the odds. In those solitary hours spent working the land, Aniela often dreamed of brighter days. She envisioned herself surrounded by friends and community, a place where laughter filled the air instead of mockery. She saw children running alongside her, hands outstretched to help with planting or harvesting, their laughter mingling with hers as they celebrated their bounty together. With every passing day, Aniela's resolve solidified like the earth under her feet. She refused to let grief define her. Instead, she used it as fuel for her fire, a drive to succeed for herself and in memory of her husband's dreams. Even when exhaustion seeped into her bones, she pushed on, knowing that each moment spent nurturing her land brought her one step closer to building the life they had envisioned together. But there were still corners of doubt lurking in her mind. As winter approached and supplies began to dwindle, Aniela held on to hope like a fragile treasure. She would sit on her porch at night, wrapped in a blanket against the cold, gazing at the stars that twinkled overhead. They reminded her that while she felt alone on Earth, there were vast universes beyond, an infinite expanse of possibility. Then came an unexpected gust of change in the form of Elias, the bearded trapper who spoke Polish fluently. His presence in the trading post had sparked something dormant within her. He had opened a door she had thought was locked forever. As thoughts of their budding connection began to weave into her dreams of resilience and self-sufficiency, Aniela realized that perhaps cooperation and companionship could flourish alongside hard work and determination. With Elias by her side, or so she hoped, she pictured not just survival but a partnership rooted in understanding, one that could help expand her dreams and ease the burdens she carried alone for so long. Together, they might transform both their lives and cultivate a support system amidst a town that had never wished them well. In that possibility lay a new chapter waiting to be written, a chapter crafted with hope, resilience, and shared purpose in the heart of Oregon's rugged terrain. Despite her determination and resilience, Aniela Zielinski continued to face an uphill battle against the pervasive suspicions and prejudices of the community surrounding her. The settlement, largely composed of people who had forged their lives in the rugged terrain of Oregon, was tight-knit and weary of outsiders. With her Polish accent and broken English, Aniela was a clear target for their skepticism, a constant reminder of someone who did not belong. Every time she entered the trading post, she could feel the weight of their gazes, sharp, critical eyes that scrutinized her every move. Conversations would fall silent as soon as she approached, leaving her with an overwhelming sense of isolation. "Look at her," a woman would whisper to another. "She thinks her little patch of land will amount to something." The laughter that followed seemed to echo around the walls, amplifying Aniela's already heavy heart. Often, even small transactions felt contentious. When asking for supplies, she would try to articulate her needs in halting English, only to be met with condescension. The merchant's sigh would rise like smoke from a chimney, and he would mutter sarcastic replies just loud enough for others to hear. "If you want grain, maybe learn to ask for it properly." Each encounter chipped away at her spirit, reinforcing her feelings of inadequacy. She sensed that to them, she was not just a foreigner. She was a nuisance, an unwelcome intruder sullying the purity of their community. As days turned into weeks, Aniela noticed that the townspeople's suspicions extended beyond mere words. Children played in groups, but they seldom invited her or acknowledged her existence. Instead, they stared curiously from a distance, the way one might observe an odd animal in a zoo. Their parents taught them to view her as different, which only deepened the chasm that separated Aniela from any semblance of belonging. At night, when darkness enveloped her small farm and the sounds of nature filled the air, Aniela often reflected on these interactions. She felt the absence of connection like an ache in her chest. The laughter of children she had watched from afar became a haunting reminder of what she missed, simple joys that felt forever out of reach. She longed for friendships crafted over shared meals or assisting each other in farming tasks, a camaraderie that was elusive amid the cool disdain from everyone around her. Aniela's sense of isolation began to take a toll on her well-being. There were moments when despair threatened to overwhelm her. As she worked tirelessly in the fields, she would feel tears prick at the corners of her eyes as hurtful memories flooded back, the piercing laughs echoing in her ears and whispers slithering into her mind during quiet moments. She would pause under the shade of an old tree, take deep breaths, and remind herself why she fought so hard to survive, for a better life, for the dreams shared with her husband. Despite this internal struggle, Aniela discovered a wellspring of strength within herself. Each time a taunt or insult pierced through her defenses, it fueled her resolve to prove them wrong. She poured herself fully into tending to her crops and learning about life in Oregon. The relentless sun on her back became a badge of honor rather than an obstacle. She sought advice where she could find it, absorbing every whisper about local farming practices, even if those whispers were often tinged with sarcasm. There were fleeting moments when someone might show an inkling of kindness, a nod here or a brief exchange there, but all too quickly, jealousy or suspicion would blight that seed of goodwill before it could take root. Aniela often caught sight of mothers pulling their children closer when she passed by or heard hushed conversations turn abruptly silent as if she might turn around and confront them. Her heart yearned for acceptance in this world where trust seemed non-existent and prejudice thrived like weeds amidst well-tended gardens. Yet even amidst such adversity, there was hope. Aniela held onto it tightly like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. She dreamed not just of surviving but thriving, trying to carve a niche in this hostile landscape to bring forth life from the earth, much like attempting to create connections from barren ground. Then came Elias, a moment that felt like destiny had intervened. When he spoke Polish at the trading post, he shattered some of those invisible walls that State had kept around her heart for so long. In that instant, Aniela felt a pulse of possibility, the potential to break through the community's prejudices and forge meaningful connections as they faced similar hardships and skepticism. As their paths began to intertwine, Aniela dared to imagine what community could look like when built on understanding instead of suspicion. Perhaps together, they could cultivate more than just crops. Perhaps they could foster acceptance amidst doubt, transforming their lives as well as those around them in a town that had never wanted either of them to belong. The road ahead still seemed daunting, but now it held promise. It was not merely survival anymore. It was a chance at true belonging wrapped in courage and friendship amidst adversity. The air in the trading post was thick with tension as Aniela entered, her heart pounding in her chest, a familiar mix of hope and dread swirling within her. The usual patrons were scattered about, their eyes flicking toward her with that same critical gaze she had grown accustomed to, sharp and filled with suspicion. It was a space filled with the smells of dried herbs, fresh grain, and the whispered murmurs of townsfolk who regarded her as an oddity rather than a neighbor. As she approached the counter, the merchant looked at her with his typical disdain. Aniela braced herself, preparing for the inevitable snide comment about her accent or her farming skills. But before she could utter a word, the doors swung open with a creak, and a tall figure strode in, a bearded trapper clad in weathered clothing, dirt from his travels still clinging to him like a badge of honor. His presence commanded immediate attention. The chatter in the room faded into an almost respectful silence. The trapper surveyed the room with keen eyes, then turned his gaze upon Aniela. She felt an inexplicable tug of curiosity toward him, as if he were a beacon calling to her from the shadows of her solitude. "Can I help you with something, miss?" he asked, his voice deep and resonant. Aniela opened her mouth to reply, but no words came out. Instead, she simply nodded, feeling oddly at ease under his steady gaze. To everyone's shock, he then switched to fluent Polish as he continued, "I can get you whatever you need." It was as if a magic spell had been cast. The tension in the room hung like mist in the air, dissipating into disbelief and stunned silence. Aniela felt her heart leap in her chest. It was the first time since arriving that someone had spoken her language within these walls. The townspeople exchanged glances filled with confusion and intrigue. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "Who is this man? He speaks Polish? What does he know of our way of life?" Aniela's heart raced as she grasped the significance of his words. "You speak Polish?" she managed to stammer, her emotions bursting forth like a spring after winter's thaw. He smiled warmly. "Yes. I learned it long ago from a friend, someone I called brother." There was a hint of sorrow in his eyes as he spoke, briefly revealing a hidden depth to this stranger who appeared so rugged yet approachable. In that instant, Aniela's world tilted. The weight of isolation began to lift as hope surged within her like wildfire. She realized that this bearded trapper could be more than just an acquaintance. He could be a lifeline, a bridge connecting her to a sense of belonging. "Thank you," Aniela said softly, feeling an unexpected warmth flooding through her. "I could use some flour and beans." As they moved towards the supplies, she felt the scornful eyes of the townsfolk on her again, but found strength in Elias's presence beside her. As they gathered provisions, Elias engaged her in conversation about their shared heritage, the flavors of Polish dishes, festivals celebrated back home, and dreams that were once filled with laughter and togetherness. With every word exchanged, Aniela felt herself begin to soften against the barriers that had kept her isolated for so long. However, the townsfolk watched closely. Their suspicion was palpable. They whispered among themselves like angry bees in their hive. Who was this stranger? Was he here to take something from them? They had already decided Aniela was an outsider. Now they were unsure how to categorize this newcomer who dared to speak her language. "Do you come here often?" she asked Elias, curious about this unexpected connection. "Not until recently," he replied thoughtfully. "I've been traveling across these lands for some time, but never stopped here until now." He paused, regarding her with interest. "What brought you to this place?" His question opened a floodgate. Aniela poured out her story, the loss of her husband, the struggle against loneliness and mockery, and her determination to cultivate a life from the land they had dreamed about together. Each word carried the weight of unspoken fears and unfulfilled dreams, and Elias listened intently without judgment. As they spoke, the merchant behind the counter coughed loudly, breaking their moment of connection and serving as a reminder of the watchful townsfolk nearby. Elias glanced toward them but continued speaking softly to Aniela. "You are stronger than you know," he said firmly. "The land can be harsh, but so are many people. Don't let their words rob you of your spirit." His words resonated deeply within her. It was a sentiment she had longed to hear but never expected from someone so unexpected. Elias had woven himself into her narrative in just moments, offering understanding that had eluded her for so long. With their supplies gathered, they walked together toward the door, side by side, a stark contrast amidst the hostile environment outside. As they stepped over the threshold into the bright sunlight, Aniela felt a sense of possibility blooming within her, a chance for companionship that could help them both navigate through their shared struggles against a community that had always cast them aside. Little did they know that this meeting would mark the beginning of a transformative journey, one where two souls united by common experiences would not only foster acceptance but challenge the prejudices that surrounded them all along. Together, they could begin to carve out a space for understanding in a town that had never wanted either of them to belong, and perhaps even plant seeds of change among those who looked upon them with suspicion and scorn. As Aniela and Elias stood in the warm sunlight outside the trading post, a newfound connection blossomed between them. While they gathered their supplies, Aniela felt an undeniable urge to learn more about this mysterious man who had broken through her cocoon of isolation. She took a deep breath and turned to him. "Elias, how did you come to speak Polish?" she asked, her curiosity painted across her face. Elias paused, his gaze drifting into the distance as if he were searching for memories buried beneath the weight of time. He rubbed his beard thoughtfully before speaking. "It's a long story," he began, his voice tinged with a mixture of nostalgia and sorrow. "I learned it from a man I once called brother, a prisoner named Janek." Aniela listened intently, her heart racing at the thought of a shared history that extended beyond their immediate struggles. Elias continued, recounting the tale that had shaped him into the man he was today. Years earlier, Elias had ventured into Eastern Europe during a time of great turmoil. He had been a soldier fighting against oppression, witnessing firsthand the suffering and despair that plagued the land. It was during one of his missions that he met Janek, a Polish man imprisoned for standing against tyranny. They had become brothers in arms, united by their shared desire for freedom and justice. Janek was unlike anyone I'd ever met, Elias recalled, his voice softening as he spoke. His spirit was unbreakable even in captivity. We would spend hours talking about everything: life, love, dreams, and he taught me about his culture and language. As he spoke of Yannick, Elias's eyes glimmered with emotion, a mix of admiration and loss. When Yannick was eventually released in a prisoner exchange, the two men promised to stay connected despite the odds stacked against them. They forged a bond deeper than blood, a brotherhood grounded in hope and resilience. Even after they parted ways, Elias carried Yannick's teachings with him like precious cargo. But soon after, Elias continued, the world changed for both of us. He sighed heavily, recalling the harsh reality he faced after their separation. The war intensified, chaos erupted around him, and ultimately it led him to abandon his homeland in search of new beginnings across the ocean. It was years later that I found myself here in Oregon, he said quietly. I thought leaving my past behind would free me from its burden, but I realized that it's part of who I am. His voice grew stronger as he spoke. I carry Yannick's lessons with me. His courage fuels my desire to connect with others like us who have faced adversity. Aniela's heart swelled with empathy for this man who had endured so much yet remained kind-hearted enough to reach out to her. She could see the toll that memories took on him as they lingered like shadows in his mind. Did you ever see Yannick again? She asked softly. Elias shook his head slowly. No, he replied solemnly. But I often wonder where life has taken him. I wish I could tell him how much his friendship meant to me. A moment of silence enveloped them as they stood together in shared understanding. Two souls shaped by loss, yet bound by hope. Feeling invigorated by their conversation, Aniela decided to share her own story, the dreams she had harbored alongside her husband, and how those dreams had been shattered upon his death. She spoke of her struggles in this foreign land and how it felt like an uphill battle against both nature and people who held her at arm's length due to her accent and background. Elias listened intently as she poured out her heart, offering words of encouragement when she faltered. In those moments, Aniela discovered something unexpected. She was not alone anymore. The burden she had carried alone seemed lighter when shared with someone who understood what it meant to be an outsider. As their conversation deepened, Aniela could see glimmers of hope shining through Elias's eyes, reflecting not just their shared heritage but also a mutual understanding born from hardships faced and endured. After gathering their supplies from the trading post, Elias suggested they take a walk through nearby fields where wildflowers danced under the breeze, an invitation to further explore their newfound friendship away from prying eyes and judgmental whispers. With each step they took together into the golden fields illuminated by the sun's warm embrace, Aniela felt something shift within her, a subtle but powerful awakening that whispered promises of belonging and acceptance where none existed before. In that moment, standing side by side with Elias amidst nature's beauty, Aniela realized they both held pieces of each other's stories within their hearts, stories intertwined by pain yet paved with resilience. And together they could forge a path toward understanding in a world that sought to keep them apart. As laughter bubbled between them amidst conversations filled with shared dreams and future aspirations unspoken until now, Aniela began to envision a life not solely defined by hardship but enriched through companionship. A life where she could cultivate both crops and friendships side by side with someone who truly understood her journey. Little did they know that this meeting would be just the beginning, an opening chapter filled with promise as they navigated through challenges together while challenging the prejudices surrounding them both along the way. As Aniela and Elias strolled through the sun-drenched fields, the vibrant colors of wildflowers danced around them, creating a serene backdrop that contrasted sharply with the harshness they had both faced in their lives. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming blossoms, offering an unspoken promise of renewal and growth, much like their budding friendship. Elias, Aniela began, glancing sideways at him. I've never met anyone who understands my struggles as you do. Her heart swelled with gratitude as she spoke, feeling the weight of her burdens lessen in his presence. Elias smiled gently, his beard catching the sunlight. I think we both know what it feels like to carry our past with us, he replied. We may come from different places, but pain is a universal language. Aniela nodded thoughtfully, recognizing the truth in his words. They walked in companionable silence for a moment, the sounds of nature wrapping around them like a warm embrace. The bond between them deepened as they shared fragments of their lives, stories woven with threads of hardship and resilience. I lost my husband not long after we arrived here, Aniela confessed quietly. He had a dream of building a farm together, a life filled with laughter and love. But after he passed, I felt so lost, like I was stumbling through darkness without a light. Her voice cracked slightly as she spoke, revealing the vulnerability she had kept hidden for so long. Elias listened intently, his expression softening as he absorbed her words. "I understand more than you might think," he said softly. "I left behind everything I knew to escape war and violence. It was safer for me, but it also meant leaving family and friends behind, people I loved deeply." He took a deep breath before continuing. "Sometimes, I wonder if they're safe or suffering. Every day is a reminder of what I've lost." Aniela could see the sorrow etched on his face. The shadows of his memories mirrored her own grief, each loss carving channels of understanding between them. She reached out and touched his arm lightly. "You are not alone anymore," she whispered, her voice firm yet gentle. "We can lean on each other." This simple acknowledgement ignited something within Elias, a flicker of hope that had dimmed over time. As they continued to walk among the flowers swaying in the breeze, he felt an urge to open up further about his own vulnerabilities. "Do you ever fear that you'll never belong anywhere?" he asked, his voice laden with sincerity. "That no matter how hard you try to cultivate relationships or create roots in this land, you'll always be seen as an outsider?" Aniela hesitated before answering, contemplating her own insecurities. "Every day," she admitted softly. "I often feel like people see me only for my accent or my broken English, not for who I really am inside." She paused to pick a delicate flower, admiring its beauty against the rough landscape surrounding them. "But when we talk," she continued, looking up at Elias earnestly, "I feel like maybe there's a chance for acceptance, even if it's just between us." Elias appreciated her honesty. It echoed his own fears too closely yet offered solace in their shared experience of alienation. He took a moment to gather his thoughts before responding. "I have felt that way too since arriving here," he confessed. "It's easy to feel invisible when everyone around you has known each other for years and doesn't welcome outsiders readily." He chuckled softly, reminiscing about moments spent alone when he first settled into this town, and how daunting it had seemed. "But now," he continued earnestly, meeting Aniela's gaze with intense sincerity, "I want to change that narrative, not just for ourselves, but also for those who come after us." He gestured toward the horizon where mountains loomed majestically against the sky. "If we can cultivate understanding between ourselves first, perhaps we can plant seeds of change among others." Aniela felt her spirit lift at his words. There was power in their connection, a shared determination to rise above adversity together rather than merely surviving on their own. "I believe we can do that," she replied confidently, "by sharing our stories and supporting one another through every challenge we face." With renewed purpose coursing through them both, they continued their walk through fields bursting with color, their laughter mingling with whispers carried by the wind as they imagined what it could mean to build acceptance within their community. As they ventured deeper into conversation about dreams unrealized and aspirations yet to be pursued, ideas blossomed like flowers beneath their feet. They discovered not only camaraderie but something even more profound, friendship rooted in understanding, compassion nurtured by vulnerability. Together they were two souls navigating parallel paths marked by loss yet illuminated by newfound hope, ready to challenge the prejudices surrounding them while forging connections built upon empathy rather than judgment. Little did they know that this moment was just a stepping stone leading them toward a brighter future where acceptance thrived amidst adversity, a place where they could finally belong not just side by side but also within themselves as well. As the sun began its descent, casting a warm golden glow over the fields, Aniela and Elias sat among a patch of wildflowers, reveling in the comforting silence that enveloped them. Their bond had grown deeper with every shared story, and for the first time in a long while, Aniela felt hope blooming within her, an emotion that had almost become foreign during her solitary days. "Aniela," Elias began, breaking the comfortable quiet between them, "have you thought about what we talked about? About confronting your neighbors together?" His tone was serious yet gentle, conveying both support and understanding as he addressed the fear that loomed over their budding friendship. Aniela shifted slightly, remembering all too well the whispers and judging looks she faced daily. "It scares me," she admitted softly. "They've made it clear to me that I am not welcome, that I am different." She looked away momentarily, allowing herself to feel the weight of anxiety settle back down upon her shoulders as memories flickered through her mind, the laughter at her expense, the moments when she felt invisible. Elias reached out and placed a reassuring hand on hers. "I understand those feelings. I've walked into rooms where people stared at me suspiciously because of my past or my accent. It's easy to feel like you don't belong." He paused to gauge her reaction before continuing. "But what if we change that? What if we show them who we are? His words struck a chord within Aniela. They resonated with her longing for acceptance and belonging, something she had yearned for since arriving in this foreign land. She blinked back tears as she considered his proposal. Together, she asked quietly. Absolutely, Elias replied with firm conviction. If we stand side by side and share our stories, show them our strength, they might start to see us differently. He shifted closer, his eyes bright with determination. We have experiences they can't ignore or mock when presented openly. Aniela absorbed his confidence and warmth like sunlight on a cold day. The idea ignited embers of courage in her heart. Perhaps it was time to stop hiding in shadows cast by their prejudice. You're right, she breathed slowly, feeling resolve building within her. If we face them together, maybe things can change. As they shared their thoughts about how best to approach this delicate situation, a gathering at the trading post where they could introduce themselves more openly, the air around them seemed to crackle with potential energy. They brainstormed ways to express their struggles. Perhaps sharing anecdotes of their lives or speaking honestly about their hopes for the future could help soften hearts hardened by misunderstanding. I want them to know why I came here, Aniela said earnestly. I left everything behind not out of choice but necessity. Her voice held conviction as pictures danced through her mind. Family gatherings filled with warmth fading into memories replaced by loneliness. Elias nodded attentively, encouraged by her passionate response. And I want them to see how much pride there is in our heritage, he added thoughtfully. This isn't just about us. It's about showing everyone that who we are matters. The conversation flowed freely now as they planned how best to dispel misconceptions and bridge gaps caused by ignorance. Each idea seemed like a step toward transforming their status from unwelcome outsiders into respected members of the community. As dusk approached and stars began peeking out from beneath blankets of twilight overhead, Aniela felt rejuvenated, a sense of purpose lighting up inside her she hadn't felt in years. Inspired by Elias's unwavering support and belief in change, she pictured herself standing before fellow townspeople no longer afraid but proud, a chance to reclaim not only her narrative but also set an example for those who might follow in their footsteps. The path ahead would surely be fraught with challenges. However, Aniela realized they no longer had to face those challenges alone. Their connection provided a sturdy foundation from which they could draw strength when confronted with hostility or skepticism. Their plans solidified under starlit skies as laughter intertwined with dreams spoken aloud, a lightness woven through words wrapped around camaraderie strengthened through collective experience. Two souls preparing themselves for an imminent journey filled with hope despite uncertainty. In those magical moments under vast celestial wonders above Oregon's landscape, where shadows faded into possibility, Aniela understood completely. Together they possessed power far greater than mere survival. They could pioneer acceptance amidst adversity and challenge those who labeled them outsiders without compassion or understanding. With newfound determination coursing through them both like warm wind across fields blossoming anew like life itself breathed deeply into existence again, they were ready. Not just for confrontation, but also for unity forged from courage shared amongst two unlikely allies seeking belonging against all odds. The days that followed Aniela and Elias's newfound connection brought both excitement and trepidation. As they embraced the possibility of confronting the prejudice in their community together, they also attracted disapproving eyes and whispers that sliced through the air like a cold wind. Aniela could feel the tension growing, a palpable heaviness that wrapped around them like fog, obscuring their dreams of acceptance. At the trading post, where they had once shared laughter and plans for a brighter future, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The townsfolk who had previously glanced at Aniela with suspicion now cast hard looks filled with disdain whenever she approached. Elias, though accustomed to adversity, experienced a new layer of hostility as well. People questioned his choice to associate with someone seen as an outsider. "You're wasting your time with her," a burly farmer grumbled one morning, spitting onto the wooden floor as he eyed them from across the room. "She'll never fit in here. Why not stick with your kind?" His words echoed in Aniela's ears, a harsh reminder of her status in this community. Elias felt his stomach twist at the man's comments but kept his composure. "I have my reasons," he replied calmly, locking eyes with the man defiantly. "And it's none of your concern." His voice carried a weight of conviction that momentarily silenced the murmurs around them. Aniela gave Elias a grateful look, feeling bolstered by his support but acutely aware of the animosity swirling around them. As they left the trading post that day, the weight of unspoken judgments pressed heavily on her shoulders. Could they truly challenge the hostility surrounding them? Things escalated further at community gatherings where gossip festered like weeds, and hostility bubbled just below the surface. Aniela and Elias attended one such event with hopeful hearts, a gathering intended to promote harmony amongst neighbors. Instead, they encountered cold shoulders and whispered remarks that cut sharply. As they stood together listening to a local musician play heartwarming tunes, Aniela felt a growing sense of unease. "Do you think we should talk to them now?" she whispered to Elias, uncertainty clouding her mind. "We should," he said quietly, his determination unwavering. "They need to hear our stories, not just about us, but for all those who feel unwelcome." But when they finally mustered the courage to address the crowd, their message was met with thinly veiled skepticism. "What do you know about our way of life?" shot back a woman from the crowd. "You come here with your accent and pretend you belong among us." Aniela felt her pulse quicken as the hostility surged toward her like an incoming wave. She opened her mouth to respond when Elias interjected, his voice steady. "We aren't looking to take anything away from you. We just want to be part of this community." But words alone didn't seem enough to change minds hardened by years of prejudice. As tensions mounted, Aniela could see many residents exchanging hostile glances and sharing knowing smirks as if their suspicions were confirmed. Days turned into weeks filled with discomfort and resistance. The scorn intensified wherever they went. Children were pulled away from Elsa like waves pushed back into shore by angry winds. Men scoffed and snickered at their attempts to fit in. Women hurried past them without so much as a word. It was in these moments of isolation that the burdens felt particularly heavy. Aniela often found herself retreating into her small home, tears streaming down her cheeks as she wrestled with feelings of despair. The loneliness that had haunted her for so long resurfaced with renewed vigor, wrapping itself around her heart like a chain. Elias sensed her struggle and refused to let it pull them into darkness alone. "We can face this together," he reminded her one evening as they sat side by side outside her home, staring into the star-studded sky above Oregon's rugged landscape. "Every day is another chance for us to share our truths." Aniela nodded slowly, but still felt weighed down by doubt. "But what if it's not enough?" she whispered. "It will be," he assured her, squeezing her hand gently as confidence flickered in his eyes. "Our friendship is our strength, and it can pave the way for progress, even in the face of adversity." That night ignited a fire within Aniela. A renewed determination took root in her heart amidst the fear woven into each day. As they both gazed at distant stars shining brightly overhead, she understood that they had to persevere. Their journey would be long and challenging, but together they could face whatever obstacles lay ahead. With each passing day, their resolve tightened like vines wrapping around a trellis, a foundation upon which they could build connections stronger than judgmental words or harsh realities. Aniela allowed herself to imagine a future where understanding prevailed over prejudice, not only for her, but also for those still seeking acceptance within their community. As dawn broke over Oregon's horizon, casting light on both wildflowers and untold hopes alike, their friendship solidified into something sacred. Two unlikely allies ready to confront a world intent on keeping them apart yet willing to stand together against its shadows in search of belonging under shared skies filled with promise. The day of the gathering arrived with an air of apprehension hanging over Aniela and Elias. They stood together at the trading post, hearts racing as they prepared to face the townsfolk who had long regarded them as outsiders. The wooden structure, once a place of simple transactions and light-hearted banter, now loomed like a fortress filled with doubt and animosity. Aniela glanced at Elias, who wore a calm expression but was clearly steeling himself for what lay ahead. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, feeling the weight of their shared mission pressing down on her. He nodded firmly. "We can do this. Remember why we're here." As they stepped through the doors, the atmosphere shifted sharply. The chatter that ebbed and flowed like a gentle stream turned into a heavy silence that enveloped them. Eyes narrowed, whispers quickly followed, broken snippets of conversation layered with skepticism filled the air around them. "Why are they here?" one voice hissed from the back. "They don't belong in our town," another murmured. Aniela felt her heart sink as hostile glances were cast their way like daggers. She grasped Elias's hand tighter, drawing strength from his presence beside her as they moved toward the center of the room where makeshift seating had been arranged for community discussions. Elias stepped forward first, addressing the crowd with a steady voice. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "We want to share our stories with you, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who feels alone or misunderstood." His words hung in the air, meeting resistance almost immediately. A heavy-set farmer crossed his arms defiantly and sneered, "You think we care about your sad tales? You've come here thinking you can just fit in without earning your place." Aniela felt a wave of nausea wash over her. She could sense others shifting uneasily behind him, but remained resolute. "We're not trying to take anything away from you," she interjected, her voice gaining strength as she faced him head-on. "We just want to understand your way of life while sharing ours." But instead of bridging gaps, her words seemed to widen them further. Derisive laughter erupted from various corners of the room. It was painfully clear that their attempt at honesty was met with suspicion rather than empathy. "Your kind will never be accepted here," shouted another member of the crowd, and Aniela winced as if struck by an unseen force. Feeling overwhelmed by hostility closing in around them like a vice grip, Aniela looked toward Elias desperately for support. He caught her eye and took a step forward beside her again. "You may see us as different," Elias said firmly yet calmly to everyone gathered before him, refusing to yield under pressure. "But our struggles are shared, our hopes are alike. We left behind everything we knew seeking opportunity and safety, a chance to plant roots." His passionate words ignited murmurs among some townsfolk who began squirming uncomfortably. There were hints of uncertainty flickering within those hardened faces that had mocked them before. An idea struck Aniela as something shifted within her spirit. She knew they needed more than mere words. They needed to show their humanity through actions reflective of sincere intentions rather than mere apologies. "What if we worked together?" she proposed suddenly, her voice clear despite surrounding animosity, standing alongside Elias proudly declaring unity against adversity. "Let us help each other learn how to farm better or share recipes. Let's hold gatherings where we celebrate our different cultures." Elias beamed at her suggestion while his expression conveyed sheer admiration. He could feel hope reigniting among uncertain hearts like flickering candles amid darkness. The audience's reactions were mixed. Some still scoffed while others appeared thoughtful, pondering possibilities birthed from relationships forged in new form beyond borders built solely upon judgmental whispers. The atmosphere grew tense again with simmering outrage expressed outwardly until it finally boiled over when one angry man spat out vehemently, "You'll never be accepted here." Suddenly, everything erupted into chaos. The crowd surged forward, threatening confrontation fueled by anger, while Aniela instinctively took a step backward only when Elias stood firm beside her, blocking any potential harm aimed toward them both. "Enough!" Elias bellowed defiantly, though his heart raced beneath his chest against mounting fear, threatening grasp control. "You may turn your backs on us or jeer until you tire, but we will stand united against whatever comes our way." His words resonated deeply among many witnessing this display. Their bond forged through adversity began affecting those once unyielding, solidifying alongside newfound respect blossoming slowly amid harsh criticism aimed towards outsiders. Aniela watched renewed energy pulse through many faces slowly beginning shifting perceptions, tentative acceptance nurtured amidst glimmers penetrating formerly closed hearts now opening ever slightly at possibility crafted through sincere intentions. No longer purely outsiders, yet allies poised towards understanding. As confrontations flared momentarily and voices clashed within confines thickened with tension, it became clear that this pivotal moment served not only as trial-testing resilience but also transformative event forging connections beyond boundaries previously cast shadows separating them, turning tides, compelling roots towards deeper unity blooming. Across wide-ranging futures sown rich tapestry discovery wise nurturing intersections blossoming everlasting kinship firmly grounded planted thriving. Across expansive fields. In that chaotic space filled with both resistance and potential collaboration arose. A testament proving strength-rooted friendships exist despite trials endured pushing beyond limitations toward brighter horizons awaited beckoning forth faith integral bonds emboldened flourishing without boundaries drawn closer opening embrace allowing myriad lives flourish united grow onward fiercely soaring merry chants laughter resonating boundless witnessing harmony emerge lasting legacies just beginning. Would illuminate paths eternally etched deep within history's embrace reflected radiant spirit resilience unfurling destined bloom brightly amongst starry skies anchored roots crafted lovingly sown enduring amidst every challenge dared continue onward opened horizons welcoming home together always for Evermore transformed, evolving stories embraced, written, anew, cherished, eternally traversed. In that chaotic space, filled with both resistance and potential collaboration, arose a testament proving strength-rooted friendships exist despite trials endured, pushing beyond limitations toward brighter horizons awaited, beckoning forth faith, integral bonds, emboldened, flourishing, without boundaries drawn closer, opening embrace, allowing myriad lives flourish, united, grow onward, fiercely, soaring, merry chants, laughter resonating, boundless, witnessing harmony, emerge, lasting legacies, just beginning. Would illuminate paths eternally etched deep within history's embrace, reflected radiant spirit resilience, unfurling destined bloom brightly amongst starry skies, anchored roots, crafted lovingly sown, enduring amidst every challenge, dared continue onward, opened horizons, welcoming home, together always for. Evermore transformed, evolving stories embraced, written anew, cherished, eternally traversed. Weeks passed after the tumultuous gathering at the trading post, and the air in the settlement began to shift ever so slightly. Aniela and Elias had expected resistance following their confrontation with the townsfolk, but they also felt a new determination grow within them. Their friendship had blossomed into a powerful source of strength, igniting a desire to carve out a place for themselves in the community. Aniela continued her farming duties with renewed vigor, but now she was not alone. Elias worked alongside her, his expertise in the land complementing her efforts. Together, they tended to the fields, planting crops that flourished under their care. As they worked, they shared stories, tales of their homelands, dreams for the future, and hopes for acceptance in this new world. Each shared moment brought them closer, fortifying their bond against the lingering prejudice surrounding them. One afternoon, as they took a break from laboring under the sun's warm embrace, Aniela spotted a small group of children playing near the edge of her property. They were giggling and chasing each other through the tall grass, laughter spilling forth like music in the air. A pang of longing struck her heart. She remembered how she once dreamed of having children run freely across her land. Elias, Aniela said softly, pointing toward the children. Do you think they would ever play with us? Elias followed her gaze and sighed. It may take time for them to see us differently, but we can show them that our friendship is not just about us. It's about building bonds that can enrich everyone's lives. Inspired by his words, Aniela nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps we should invite them over for some fun activities, something to bring everyone together. Elias grinned at her enthusiasm. That's a brilliant idea. We could teach them how to make pierogi or help them plant seeds. If we share our culture in a welcoming way, maybe they'll start to see us as part of this community. The excitement of their plan filled Aniela with hope. They could create opportunities for connection while showcasing their traditions. That evening, she prepared some simple invitations and wrote out what they planned to do. Teach the children to cook traditional Polish dishes and share stories from their homeland. The next day, Aniela and Elias approached the children with their proposal. At first, there were hesitant glances exchanged among the kids. Echoes of doubt lingered behind their laughter. However, when Aniela warmly invited them to join in on an afternoon of cooking and fun games, some youngsters stepped forward, intrigued by the promise of fresh food and laughter. As word spread throughout the community about the upcoming event at Aniela's farm, mixed reactions emerged. While some remained skeptical, others began to express curiosity about what these two outsiders had to offer. The townsfolk who had previously scoffed at their presence started asking questions. Perhaps there was something worthwhile hidden beneath those layers of prejudice after all. On the day of the gathering, Aniela felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety as she prepared her yard for visitors. Brightly colored decorations adorned her space, and she laid out tables filled with ingredients for pierogi, potatoes, cheese, flour, and set up bowls for games nearby. Elias arrived early to help set up everything and ensure that they were ready when guests began to trickle in. As families gathered on her land, their nervousness gradually gave way to cheerful chatter and laughter. Slowly but surely, barriers began to crumble beneath the weight of shared experiences. Watching families come together was exhilarating for Aniela. Children darted back and forth between tables as they eagerly joined in cooking lessons led by Elias while she demonstrated how to knead dough properly, a skill passed down through generations. Look, one little girl exclaimed, her eyes wide as she watched dough transform into delicious pockets filled with savory goodness. This is fun. Aniela smiled brightly at the sight of joy illuminating faces once skeptical about her presence. As laughter echoed through her yard mingling with happiness shared among neighbors, a warmth filled her spirit. She felt accepted at last. As night fell and lanterns flickered like stars overhead, Aniela looked around at this gathering, a blend of cultures celebrating togetherness rather than division. The evening culminated in storytelling sessions where Aniela shared tales from Poland while Elias enchanted listeners with heroic stories from his travels across distant lands. It became clear that building connections would require effort but not without reward. Every shared laugh dismantled doubts rooted deep within hearts once closed off, intent on keeping distance strictly maintained between communities drawn across landscapes marked hardened by fear previously blocking empathy forged anew, allowing brighter futures emerge amidst adversity. United, bonded, empowered, collective strength stood firmly against history rewriting narrative layered thickened through courage. Propelled onward, determined, reclaimed narratives threading unity forged towards belonging, renewed embrace together. By the time everyone departed that evening, smiling faces beaming brightly under moonlight's embrace, the community started to perceive Aniela and Elias not as outsiders but allies, contributing color, vibrantly enriching tapestry woven alongside them, fostering flourishing friendships awaiting beyond borders, forming promising futures tethered across expansive journey paths illuminated brightly ahead, where acceptance thrived, rose blossoms connected, brightened, everyday lives nurtured, kindness sowed. Generously growing, resilience rooted deeply among blended cultures harmonizing together. As the weeks turned into months, Aniela and Elias found their footing within the community, slowly transforming their bond into a source of strength and acceptance. The gatherings they initiated not only brought the townsfolk together to share food, but also fostered an environment where stories could be exchanged, allowing barriers built on prejudice to crumble. In the mornings, as dew glistened on the grass, Aniela would watch children laughing and playing in her yard. Children who once regarded her with suspicion now danced freely around her. Each smile and giggle filled her heart with warmth, a welcome reminder that change was possible even in the face of adversity. Elias worked tirelessly alongside her, his hands skilled yet gentle as they cultivated their crops. Together they created a vibrant patchwork of vegetables and herbs, which became a symbol of their efforts to blend cultures while enriching the land they shared. Aniela taught him how to make traditional Polish dishes, while he introduced her to local ingredients and cooking techniques unique to Oregon. Their kitchen became a melting pot of flavors, laughter echoing off the walls as they experimented with recipes that combined both their heritages. One afternoon, while preparing for another gathering, Aniela noticed a familiar figure watching them from afar. Mrs. Thompson, one of the town's more skeptical residents who had initially shown hostility towards Aniela's presence. With trepidation, she approached Mrs. Thompson with a warm smile. "Would you like to join us?" Aniela asked warmly, gesturing toward the bustling kitchen filled with delicious aromas. To Aniela's surprise, Mrs. Thompson hesitated before stepping forward cautiously. "I've heard good things about your gatherings," she admitted, voice softening slightly. "I thought I'd see what all the fuss is about." Elias exchanged an encouraging glance with Aniela. This was what they had hoped for, a chance to invite others into their world rather than waiting for acceptance to be handed down like a decree. As Mrs. Thompson entered the kitchen, she soon found herself caught up in the flurry of activity, kneading dough alongside Aniela and laughing at Elias's light-hearted jokes about cooking disasters he had encountered in his travels. Watching this transformation unfold before her eyes felt surreal. It was as though pieces of a puzzle were finally falling into place. In time, more townsfolk began to trickle in as curiosity overtook skepticism. Each gathering turned into an opportunity for deeper understanding. Stories flowed between people like threads weaving together disparate lives into a richer tapestry. One evening, after another successful event filled with laughter and connection, Aniela and Elias sat outside under a starlit sky, reflecting on how far they had come since that turbulent day at the trading post. "I never imagined this would happen," Aniela said softly as she gazed at the stars twinkling above them like diamonds scattered across velvet. Elias smiled knowingly. "It's remarkable what can unfold when we face our fears together," he replied. "But it wasn't just us. It was everyone willing to step beyond their comfort zones." Aniela nodded thoughtfully, recalling all those moments when doubt threatened to consume her spirit entirely, but instead became seeds planted deep in fertile soil nurtured by courage sparked through genuine friendships formed along this journey. Days later came another pivotal moment. An invitation from the town council reached them, an opportunity to co-host the annual Harvest Festival alongside local farmers. Though initially overwhelmed by disbelief that they could play such an integral role in community traditions long held tightly within established circles, Aniela felt empowered by Elias's unwavering support, reassuringly steady beside her when doubt crept forth again. "This is our chance," he encouraged passionately over breakfast one morning as sunlight poured through their kitchen window, illuminating brightly colored produce laid out across tables bursting vibrantly alive before them, ready for festivities promising ahead. "We can showcase our culture alongside theirs, teach everyone about our foods." And so began preparations for what would become an unforgettable celebration, a convergence of cultures promising unity rather than division, orchestrated through shared labor, culminating joyful moments, woven richly crafted memories forged anew. On festival day itself, as townsfolk adorned booths displaying crops from both traditions mingled side by side, Aniela watched amazed, witnessing acceptance building visibly tangible amidst laughter echoing joyfully between stands exhibiting colorful crafts, while children dashed happily, trying samples offered delicately among families gathered near, celebrating heartwarming connections previously unimagined flourishing radiantly. Underneath, boughs laden, fruitfully bearing harvest, representing hope, woven threads, continuous, resilient life joyously surrounding joined hearts, blossom brightly, illuminating paths united, show resilience, forge triumph amid shadows cast long ago, revealing potential lying dormant beneath skin, breaking barriers, grasping toward brighter future, open wide, welcoming many horizons, blossoming eternally. When night fell upon Oregon's landscape, shimmering vivid colors danced across stages, blooming sounds celebrating collective journeys traveled onward, instilling pride, creating lasting legacies, thriving timelessly, igniting embers, shimmering hope, woven forever. Nurturing kinships, fulfilling promises earned, achieving belonging built through compassion, enduring strength, flowing endlessly alongside deep-rooted friendships destined flourish alongside humanity, rekindled, crossing oceans, landed shores. Together forever, immortalized, joining spirits, steadfast, evolving lives, intertwining destiny, rewritten, discovering boundless connections, reveal wondrous beauty, shining fiercely, illuminating pathways, inviting light, forging futures ever brighter, resiliently. Embracing love, stitching legacies, robustly Sherry's head always recalled tenderly graceful. When night fell upon Oregon's landscape, shimmering vivid colors danced across stages, blooming sounds celebrating collective journeys traveled onward, instilling pride, creating lasting legacies, thriving timelessly, igniting embers, shimmering hope, woven forever, nurturing kinships, fulfilling promises earned, achieving belonging built through compassion, enduring strength, flowing endlessly alongside deep-rooted friendships destined flourish alongside humanity, rekindled, crossing oceans, landed shores. Together forever, immortalized, joining spirits, steadfast, evolving lives, intertwining destiny, rewritten, discovering boundless connections, reveal wondrous beauty, shining fiercely, illuminating pathways, inviting light, forging futures ever brighter, resiliently, embracing love, stitching legacies, robustly Sherry's head always recalled tenderly graceful.